Okay, so hi, I'm Brian Alford. I am the speech and debate coach at A&M Consolidated High School, and I'm going to spend probably about 10 minutes here with you talking about how Congress works online. I know that many of you were able to choose if you wanted to do your Congress in session for UIL online or in person. For those of you that are choosing online, I'm just here to give you some tips and tricks that I've learned over doing Congress online for the past few months. So if you have any questions, I'm going to put my email address at the end. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have. So what I wanted to go over with today is how Congress works in the online world, how Congress people need to go about seeking recognition in online Congress, how to PO in online Congress, which we'll spend a pretty good amount of time on that, how to handle motions in online Congress, and then finally we're going to talk a little bit about presentation. And that's effectively how to use the box, or in this case, the little circle, most effectively, and still how to project. These are some issues that I've been noticing, and these are things we're going to go over. So when we talk about how Congress works in the online world, the first thing we have to discuss is Congress actually makes a very smooth transition to the online world, probably better than just about any other debate event that there is. No matter if you are doing a tournament either through NSDA classrooms or NSDA campus, classrooms.cloud, Hopin, just about all of the platforms that I've seen use some form of a Zoom base. You may have to go through to get to the room that you're supposed to be debating in, but most of them are going to be a Zoom-based app to where you join a room and you can see everybody. There are some of the functions disabled, like sometimes the hand raise function, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, is not working. The poll is not working. The screen share is not working. Nobody has the ability to mute each other and things like that. So it's just a very bare bones Zoom. The smaller the group, we've noticed, is the better. I still don't know what the numbers are going to be for UIL. I'm guessing they're going to try to keep it between 18 and 12. That would probably be ideal. 18 is probably pushing it. In a perfect world for me, I would say no more than 15 in a room. But that's just me. The smaller groups, I seem to be better because, the smaller the group, the more that everybody's going to get the opportunity to speak the equal amount of times. But that's just me. One other thing that I really suggest is that everybody, judges, coaches, competitors, everybody, not coaches, of course, but participants in the round, just keep the Brady Bunch view on. That's to where you could see everybody in their little box on the screen. This is going to be more important when we get into POing, but as a competitor, it's going to be good because you can see the PO. One thing that you will notice that goes away in online Congress are gavel taps. No more gaveling. So you're going to want to see the PO if you want to get some time, some time left on your speech. It's also going to be a way for you to see the judges. I know that when I was competing, I would always want to look at the judges in any event to see if they were reacting well to what I was saying. Many of you probably do that also. So when you have the Brady Bunch view on, even when you're speaking, you're able to look at the judges. It also allows you to see the competitors in the room, to see how they're reacting, to see if, people are paying attention. It also gives you a chance to, while you're not speaking, to, kind of keep an eye on each other to make sure nothing goofy's going on, that everybody's, competing the way that they should be. So the Brady Bunch view is very good to use at all times. When you use the speaker view, I don't understand why people do that because you're just looking at a mirror of yourself talking. When you do the Brady Bunch view, you get to see people's reactions, and you could also see the PO's time cues. So it's really an easy transition. There's just a few things that are going to be different. When it goes to giving speeches and being recognized online, you're going to want a placard still. Even though we are online, yes, you're going to want a placard. These are still the best way for you to get recognition. I'm going to show you why. I moved this at home, so I do not have a placard. I'm going to use this book. Okay, so pretend this book is a placard, guys. Sorry. If you do the hand raise function, which is disabled in a lot of the platforms, it's very difficult for the PO to keep track, but it's very easy for the PO to see a big white piece of paper. Now, make sure that you do something on a white piece of paper and make sure that you make the text dark so it is easy to see. Make sure it is done in a marker of some kind. preferably, or printed. That way we can see it, because sometimes camera quality is not the best. If it's done in pencil, it's not going to be able to be seen. Back up one step. You should always, by the way, in the names where you name yourself in Zoom, you should have it as representative and last name. That should be the first thing you do. I'm sorry. But anyway, when you're using your placard, when you seek recognition, usually, you could hold it like this and be fine. But you can barely see that I'm holding up my placard, even though I am. And remember, the PO and the judges are only going to be able to see what's in the box. So right now, if I'm holding up my placard, I know I want recognition, but no one that is in charge may see this. It is highly suggested that everybody do it up as make sure you can still see the screen, but make sure that you know that the PO can see your placard. Okay, so keep your placards high. This goes for voting. This goes for trying to get the attention of the PO and make a motion. This goes to try to seek recognition for speeches and questioning. Keep it up high. This, see down here it doesn't work. Up here it does. So keep the placard high. Now, the chat function is predominantly used for points of privilege. Like if you need to leave your desk for a few minutes, you still need to make a point of personal privilege to leave the chamber. We've noticed that kind of slows things down sometimes, so usually those points of personal privilege are done in the chat. If the PO does not recognize it in about 30 seconds, then you can just turn your camera off and go. We at least have a record of it. You'd want to send it to everybody in the room. You do not want to send it during the middle of a speech, though. You still want to make sure you are sending it in breaks between speeches, all of that. And if you cannot interrupt the floor or the speaker to do it, you should not interrupt during the chat. Okay, that's a rule of thumb. If you're making a motion where you can, interrupt the speaker, you can probably type that out. That would be fine. Amendments need to have a process to go through. Remember, they go to the parliamentarian accepts it, and that goes to the PO. Use the chat to send amendments to the parliamentarian. If you do not know who the parliamentarian is, just send your amendments to the PO. The PO will be contacting the parliamentarian through that. So use the chat function as much as possible. Try to keep it not to where you're not having discussions with each other. Keep the chat for the debate round only. Let's talk about presiding real fast. When you were presiding in a congressional debate round online, and in general, my advice to you is always, always, always have a pre-canned audition speech ready to go. This is important because as a PO, the judges are not going to hear you speak. They are going to see your organization skills. They are going to see your management skills. They are going to see if you can, keep precedence and keep the session going. But they're not really going to be listening to a speech that you give. As people who PO a lot, you know that sometimes it can be just one or two tiny mistakes that keep you from breaking or keep you from not. So if you have an audition speech, first of all, that's showing me as a judge that, hey, this kid's prepared, and that's probably going to set you apart a little bit. The other thing is it gives all the other judges a chance to see you speak. Now, what happens if you're running unopposed and don't get to give it? Okay, that's one thing. You can then give it to when you start to be like, okay, guys, thank you for letting me PO. Here are my procedures. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do things. Are there any questions? Let's begin. Okay, even if it's that kind of a speech, but always have something, and I'm not talking a big long thing. I'm talking 20, 30 seconds max, but just something for the judges to be able to see that you can, put words together and not just bang a gavel. In online Congress, precedence is preset. What that means is the PO and the judges are going to be giving a precedence chart. The competitors should not see this. What that is going to do is when we ask for first speeches, everybody who raises their placard, the PO will look, and whoever's first on that list, if their placard is up, they get the speech. If if he looks up and the third person down is the person with precedence, they get the speech. Then they move over. So it's till precedence is set, you use the preset precedence. So it's very simple. It's like, you're just checking off a list to see who the person at the top is. Once you remove them from that list, they go on the actual precedence chart. So it's a preset thing. It's very simple to use. As I stated earlier, there are no gavel taps this year because that, the way that speakers work and Zoom things, it just doesn't work. So you have two options. You can make flashcards, which, again, just get some index cards. Have these pre-made if you're somebody who likes to PO a lot, that have your gaveling procedures on it. I would have some that would say 2 minutes, 2:30, 2:50, 3 minutes, and then a 5, and then just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, verbal stop. Or you can use an iPad or your phone, but make sure that this is not your phone that you could be getting text messages and stuff on. Like, put it in airplane mode and use it only as a timer, and you could just hold up to where people can see it. I found that for most people, flashcards are going to be the way they want to go because it keeps the PO from not having to do it like this. But some people do like it like that. Either way is fine, but I would still probably stick with flashcards. This year, direct questioning will be used during questioning. What that means is each questioner will get 30-second intervals. After the first pro and the first con, again, we have 2 minutes of questions, so that's 4 questioners. Every speech after that has 1 minute of questioning. That's 2 questioners. So as a PO, you need to be looking ahead. Look ahead. See who's going to be, if like, okay, I know this guy hasn't spoken in a while. If he stands up, he'll be first. Because you have to do precedence on questioning also, and it's going to be by number of questions. When you are picking speakers for direct questioning, there are options. You can do it all at once. You can say, okay, out of the people standing, check your precedence. It will go to Representative A, Representative B, Representative C, and then Representative D, Representative A, go. Or you can do it one at a time. Representative A, while they're questioning, you look and see who's still standing, figure out who it is, give them like a thing like, hey, I'm going to point to you next, or put it in the chat. Use whatever way you can. Try to avoid having to, do it one by one because it's going to slow you down. It's acceptable, but it will slow you down. Using the chat is an acceptable way too, and it's also going to be faster because, again, you want to make sure that you're muting and unmuting yourself as quickly as possible. When there are no more questions, you could say, thank you, Representative. Oh, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. There is no more of the thank you, Representative, you may take your seat. When questioning time is over, you could say, thank you, Representative's questioning time has elapsed. We're now in line for a speech and negation. This is your opportunity to keep it moving. A lot of time would be wasted between, okay, Representative, thank you, you may take your seat. Do you wait for them to sit down? That was the speech and affirmation, all speeches in negation. Everybody stands up. Then you have to wait on them to get up there. Then somebody probably left their placard up there, so you have to remind them to go get it. So that takes time. If you just do it, thank you, Representative, you may take your seat, sings out speech negation, boom, just make it real fast. At 3:10, you will want to give a verbal stop. One thing with the Brady Bunch view is, again, some people do not understand when to stop talking. At Nationals this year, what I had my chamber do at one point was if this questioner would keep speaking and would not stop, and you don't want to interrupt, I just had everybody in the room. If I did this, everybody else in the room did that. So when you look down, you see a bunch of X's on your screen. Okay, I need to stop. If you want to use that, cool. If not, don't worry about it. But that will help people see, okay, my questioning time is over. I need to go on. The last suggestion when you're POing is when you're counting votes, say the person's name when you're voting so they can put their placard down. Because remember, you may not see them in the same order. Everybody's screen is going to be different in the order that the people are set up. So if you say, okay, all of those voting yes, please raise, okay, Representative A, Representative C, Representative E, Representative G. And then they can put their placards down. Again, just ways to help you and to speed things along. There are likely things that I'm forgetting about presiding that you need to know. I apologize, and if I do, I will send out an addendum. But those are all the major things I can think of is this, be fast, be efficient, have your time cards ready, always have that speech, make sure you're knowing it's direct questioning, still watch for prefacing. Watch for prefacing. And the one thing I always tell POs, no matter if it's online or in person, if you make a mistake, just admit it and be like, okay, guys, I made a mistake. That's my bad. But here's what we need to do to correct it. Keep things going, keep things official, but make sure you're the person in charge and be the person that rules the chamber. But do not be afraid to admit a mistake. And if your parliamentarian kind of suggests that you're doing something wrong, and you know that the parliamentarian's wrong, you should probably just go with what the parliamentarian says just to be sure and bring it up later, because you don't want to have a parliamentarian angry at you. That goes for everybody. So yes, make sure if you have any questions on POing, you'll feel free to email me at the end. Now, when it comes to handling motions, again, raise your placards, use the chat function. Nothing really changes with the motions. It's just, keep the placards high, use the chat for things of privilege. Make sure you're keeping your recesses down to a short amount of time, but still, for all votes, don't worry about any voting hands or polls on Zoom. Just have people hold their placards, make it easy. Now, last thing I want to talk about is what I call using the box. On here, it's a little circle, but in Zoom, it's going to be a little box. You have to remember, that is your space. That is what, as a judge, that is what I'm judging you. I'm judging you based on what's happening in that little box and what words come out of my speakers. Okay? So you want to make sure that you are using your box wisely. So that's just my term my kids get tired of hearing, but I'm like, make sure you're using your box properly. You want to make sure that you can be seen clearly. Like right now, I think I am probably a little underlit if I were competing, but I had to come home to make this video, so we've got what we got. But you want to have not a super busy background if possible. Now if you're in a situation where you can't, just make the best of what you have. But again, make sure you can be seen clearly. The other thing is make sure you are positioned yourself to where if you're using hand gestures like I have been throughout this entire presentation, that they can be seen. If you only have your face and first of all, if you're not using gestures, you need to work on that. Just because you're sitting down to speak in Congress this year does not mean you need to not still be animated when you speak. So make sure that you have enough to where, practice a little bit, make sure you're there and practice giving speech so if people can see gestures, especially if you do, a lot of this versus this kind of gestures. So make sure you can be clearly seen. Make sure your gestures can be seen. That's very important. Now, the other thing I need to warn people about is be careful of the really huge headsets. Like it puts here, some of you look like you're going on a lunar mission. I've seen some people, okay, cool. They're just really big. That's not what gets me. They have these boom microphones that come down on them. They're fine to use, guys. They're totally fine to use. I tell my children that are in Congress not to use them. I like them using the earpods because it looks better, or nothing at all. But if you're going to use the big ones, especially the ones with the boom mic, you have to remember, you still need to project. What I'm running into is people who have the boom mics and they're going to talk like this because they know they don't need to talk loud for the microphone to pick it up. But when they talk like this, they're not really speaking with any, passion or anything. So you want to make sure you're still projecting. So speak as if you were in a physical room. Don't just whisper because you know the microphone's going to pick it up, because you can tell and it just doesn't sound like you're giving a professional prepared speech. It just sounds bad. So try, if possible, if you can, just use the computer speaker and microphone. Then that will force you to project. But just know that it's the little things in online Congress that stand out a lot. So the fact that you can be heard clearly will become very important. So make sure you're using this box and being aware of what's going on. Try to make sure that, if you can, to where it's like zoomed in to where if somebody walks in your room, it's not going to be as noticeable. But, make the best of the situation that you have. So those are just some basic things about online Congress. Again, as I said, Congress makes a relatively smooth transition. If you have any questions about online Congress, you can reach out to the UIL office, of course, just Ms. Riggins, or you can email me there, and I will try to get back to you. But I hope this was helpful, getting you maybe a little more comfortable with online Congress. It really does make a very easy transition, and I wish you all the luck this year.